Now, who does not know about Android, right? So think about these mobile phones like we are using all the phones, mostly Android OSs, right? And we have Android TVs, we have tablets. All of these things works with Android. A recent study has shown that more than 83% of the mobile market is captured by Android. And as per a survey of Google, 1.5 billion devices are running Android. Okay. So what will be the advantages of using Android phones? So basically, if you talk about the Android, it's a mobile operating system. And everyone uses a phone almost, right, in today's world. So as a developer, if you are making an Android app, just imagine your life after doing Android. If you are lined up as a developer, you can develop, you can build apps rather, and all these apps will be working on Android phones. Because even as a user, I mean a normal user, not as a developer, right? But as a normal user, we use apps in various forms for various purposes, right? Like I want to chat with someone, I will use WhatsApp. And if I want to take a pic, I will use camera. If I want to listen to a music, I will be using a music app, right? So as a user, we always use apps. We never use Android. But those apps are based on the Android OS, the operating system, right? We just use apps, and the apps are based on the Android operating system. So, so as a user, just imagine you are as a developer, just imagine you are building an app and you are deploying that app on Play Store. Now, there are approximately, I'm not sure whether it's just an approximate calculation, that there are 1.5 billion devices, billion, mind it. So if you deploy your app on the Play Store, and even 1% of the mobile users are using your app, and that comes out to be around 15 million people, right? Almost 15 million, not a small amount. Just imagine what we will have after that. The first thing, of course, you will be famous, right? And the second thing is money. You'll be earning lots of money, hopefully. And the third thing, and the most important thing is you will get a confidence, right? So it doesn't matter who you are. Maybe you are working with a company, you are a student, or maybe you are a jobless person, whatever. What you can do is you can just learn the technology, make your own apps. For a student, it will give you confidence. Now, what about a jobless person? You will get a job because there's a huge market for Android now. So if you are an Android developer, you will be hired. And if you are a skilled Android developer, to be very specifically, you will be hired. Not just any developer, you have to be skilled in the job. Okay. Today, in this very crunched job market, you have to be skilled in whatever you do. So if you are doing a job in other technology, you can switch back to this technology called Android, because almost all companies want their own apps nowadays. I hope all of you agree with me, right? Now, there are certain prerequisites that you require, and I expect you to be knowing these things before we start off with learning the actual things about the nuts and bolts of Android from the next class on. Now, the most important two basic prerequisites that you should know is the first one is XML. Okay, the first one is XML, and the second one is Java. Now, it's not that difficult, mind it. You should know about XML, just the basics of XML. Okay, just the basics of XML, and just a minute. We can also, yeah, Rakesh has said we can also do freelancing. Very good idea. Don't go for a job. Do a freelance. Be a freelancer. That would be Nice thing. Yeah. So we need two things basically to start learning Android. The first one is XML and the second one is Java. And you should be knowing some basics of XML. Okay, not much of XML, not to the advanced part, but at least some basics of XML. And I think almost all of you must be knowing some amount of HTML, right? What do you say? Some amount of HTML? I hope most of you know. Ah, yes, sir. Raman has said. Great. Yes, yes. Great. Thank you. So XML is quite like XML. Okay, so don't get afraid. In XML, what we have predefined tags, right? In XML also, we will be using tags, but they will be according to some tags, obviously, we'll be using which are predefined, but some tags we can also create on our own. Okay, so in XML, we can have our own tags. But the thing is, I told you, Android itself has a whole bunch of own tags, and that we will be using those built-in tags in Android in XML. Okay. Saurabh is asking, can we use HTML? No, 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 Saurabh. No. Android requires whatever tags we'll be using, they have to be from XML, and almost all tags are must be coming from the Android repertoire. Okay, so there are a whole lot of tags over there which are there with Android, and we'll be using them. Just XML won't help you over here. Just HTML. Okay, HTML is not going to help you. But the concept of HTML will be quite helpful. That's the thing what I was talking about. Okay. So the thing is, you should know about tags, and you should be knowing the tags. What are the tags with tags within tags? Okay, how to assign value to a tag like that img tag. You must all be knowing the image tag in XML, right? Img src equal to, then in single or double quote you give that image name. Okay, Ankit is saying I know Java, but don't know. No issue, Ankit. No issue, Ankit. I'll be covering whatever XML will be required for the training. I'll be teaching you each and everything line by line. No issue. Okay. So once we start with programming, we will get to know lots of different tags. So the next thing is you must be knowing Java. I hope all of you know some amount of core Java. Yes, yes, yes. So many, all yes system. Great, great. So we will be requiring the basics of Java. Okay. In case you must be wondering about what do you mean by basics, isn't it? I'll be mentioning the features that you have to just brush upon so that from the next class we can directly start running with the Java codes, right? So we should be knowing the OOPS concept, the object-oriented programming concept. That is, you should be knowing how to define a class, right? How to define a class, and accordingly how to define objects. You should be knowing how to create objects, how to access the instance methods. You should also be knowing how to extend a class, that is inheritance, right? Inheritance. And you should be knowing a bit of polymorphism. Please note down objects, class, inheritance, polymorphism. Okay. And you should be knowing how to create abstract class. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yes, Aniket saying interfaces. Sure. Interface, I'll be coming to that. Okay. Interfaces, definitely. So you should be knowing abstract classes. The most important thing, encapsulation. Okay. And interfaces. We'll be also working with interfaces in our whatever Java code we'll be writing in Android. And now, interfaces are very important, mind it, okay? Because when you work on Android applications, there are lots of times when we're using existing libraries. Okay, why write the wheel? Why invent the wheel once again? There are a whole bunch of libraries in Android. We'll be working with those libraries. We will be calling those library methods, right? We'll be importing those existing libraries, And maybe those libraries will be having a lot of interfaces. So we should be having some basic idea about interfaces. Okay, not the advanced concepts of interfaces, but at least what are interfaces, how they are created, what are the contents of interfaces like method prototypes and whatever, how to implement an interface in a class definition, uh, how to implement the methods that are declared in the interface inside the class, which is implementing the interface. Okay. Now you should be knowing a few more extra things also in Java. Just a minute. Yeah. So you should be knowing a few more extra things in Java also, so that it will be a smooth sailing in Android. Like the first thing would be exception handling. I hope most of you know what is exception handling. That is part of core Java, isn't it? Yeah. Try, catch, finally, all those stuff. Yes. Thank you. So try, catch, finally, and all those stuff. So exception handling will be required in some cases, because in your applications, we can have a lot of exceptions. So you must know those exceptions, and you have to code those exceptions with appropriate Java code. Okay. So exception handling is the next topic in core Java. Generics. Raman Sharma is asking for, yes, to some extent, we will be using a bit of generics also, Raman. Yes, but don't go too much on it. Okay. Whatever, as much as is required, we'll be using. Okay. Otherwise, generics itself is a huge term, isn't it? It's a huge area. Next, another important thing will be threads. I hope some amount of multi-threading concept is there, like extending that thread class, implementing that runnable interface. What do you say? Multi-threading concept, anyone? Okay, okay, little bit. No, no. Okay, 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 okay. I got it. Okay. Like example means like, say for example, I am asking you to open up a 500-page Word document. Okay. And I ask you to print it out. So what you do, you open the document in MS Word, for example, MS Word application, and then you go for the print option and you started getting it printed. Now, the MS Word application, if the situation is like this, that the MS Word application is totally devoted for the printing task, then what will happen? You cannot interact with the application anymore until and unless those 500 pages are done, isn't it? Until and unless all the 500 pages are done, you cannot interact with your Word application. So this is not at all desirable, right? What we require is MS Word should be able to respond to user inputs, even if those 500 pages documentation is getting printed in the background. So what happens whenever we run the MS Word application, or for that matter, any application, right? We create a process, right? There's a process which is running that application. Now, within that process, we have some concepts called threads, or you can think of something like a child process, not exactly, but in a crude format, you can think of as a child process. Okay. So the MS Word application will be the main process. Within that, there will be some concept called thread, which is running the code of the MS Word application. I'll again tell you. First, when you start any application, mind it, any application written in any language, anywhere, a process starts. It is the responsibility of the process to allocate whatever memory requirements that application needs, right? Whatever, whatever devices that application needs to connect to, okay, or the application needs to respond to, okay. So the process does that, and within that process, there is something called a thread is getting created, right? A thread is getting created. Now, for that application to run, that means the parent MS Word application to run, we have the thread called main thread. mind my words, main thread. Okay. Now that main thread will be running within that process and is responsible for running your MS Word application. For example, say MS Word application. Now, as soon as you start giving the print command, what happens? There is a child thread that is created by the main thread. Okay, a child thread gets created by the main thread, and main thread hands over the entire printing responsibility to the child thread. So what happened? Two threads are there. One is the main thread that remains committed to the application being responsive to the user, and the main thread has created a child thread, and the main thread has handed over the child thread the total responsibility of printing it out. Okay, the total responsibility of printing out the thing. So the child thread now communicates with the printer and gets the job done. When the printing is finished, all the 500 pages are done, the child thread dies. That is what we say in programming, right? The child thread dies and the main thread is still alive. So while the two threads are juggling with the CPU resources, the main thread as well as the child thread, the handover from the main thread to the child thread, again from the child thread back to the main thread, this handing over of the responsibilities occurs very fast. We never see a lag, right? You never see that half a line getting printed, printer is halting or pausing, and then again after a few seconds, the remaining half of the line gets printed, right? So this two threads are inter swapping the processor resources in such a high speed that you can never see a lag, and there's no lag almost in today's processor, right? So the main thread will be responsible for getting the application remaining responsive so that while the 500 pages are getting printed, the user will not sit idle. The user will open up a new document, start editing on it. So the main thread will be interacting with the user. Okay. So the main thread is responsible for getting hold of the main application, whatever user interaction is being done with the main application. And there's a child thread which is separately created to take over the entire responsibility of the printing process. Okay, so that is in very short what it is all about threads. Now, in Java, to create thread, there are two ways basically. In Java, there are two ways of creating a thread. One is by extending there is a class called thread actually. Okay. So we can extend our thread class, which is built in, and that's one way of creating a thread. And the second way will be there's an interface called runnable. Okay, RUNNABLE. There's an interface called runnable, and we'll be implementing the runnable interface. So these two ways will be there, and there will be a topic called multi-threading Android apps. So we will be learning in that area how to create multiple threads in our Android application. Okay. So over there, we will be creating small threads and get our jobs done by those individual threads. What was the first way? Yes, print. The first way is extending the thread class. Okay. There are two ways of doing. Either you extend the thread class, second, or you implement the runnable interface. Thread class extending or implementing the runnable interface. Okay. So threads are important because if we talk about the mobile market nowadays, in mobile phones, whatever processors we have, Snapdragon or whatever, okay, we have multiple cores, right? So we have a single core processor, multi-core processor. In multi-core processor category, we have dual core, quad core, or maybe octa-core also. So just imagine octa-core CPUs. So your application is running on a device which has octa-core CPUs. So your application should be able to use all those 8 cores, isn't it? So To make it work, you should know the basic concepts of threads. Okay, you'll be getting few days in between before we start off with our next class on 4th June. So you can go through this concept of thread at your leisure time. Okay. So maybe you are building a web-based application. So you send a request to the server. In the server, a thread is running, and that thread is waiting for incoming client request. So again, you need a knowledge of thread. So it will be very helpful if you know about exception handling and threads. Now, one more thing you should be knowing, that is listeners and adapters. I think this is new to you. These two terms are new to you. I'll just tell you. Let's say you are creating an application where in that application there is a button and you click on that button. What will happen? Like a login screen, right? We use almost every day some sort of login screen. You click on the login button. So that button click has to be sensed or listened by your app, which is running in the background, isn't it? So some method needs to be invoked when you click on that login button. I hope you all get it. Wherever there is a button and you're clicking on it, there is something at the back end of the button, some piece of code at the back end of the button, which is always waiting for the to listen to that button click, isn't it? Some piece of code running at the back end of the button. You mean responsive? Yes, yes, responsive method. Avinav, yeah, responsive. So that piece of code will be called listener. Okay, so you have to apply over here the concept of listener. Now, if anyone has done some amount of Java swing, anyone Java swing to design, to use buttons, labels, text fields, and all those stuff. Ah, Aniket, yes, yes, yes. Some of them are saying yes, some of us are saying no. Okay, no issue. Those of you who don't know, no issue. Just imagine a GUI screen where it's a login page. So there are two buttons, login and quit or cancel, whatever. The same concept. If there are two buttons, there are two listeners, one listener each against each of the buttons, which are waiting in the background to sense whether the user is clicking on that button or not. Okay? So we will be applying the concept like we have tekinter in Python. Dipali Agarwal is tekinter. Yes, yes, yes. Sure, sure, sure. Okay. You use tekinter in Python to do your GUIs. The same concept everywhere, just the names are different. Nothing else. Okay. Yes. Aniket, enter details. We use Python. Yes, yes, yes. Same thing. Wherever you use GUI, maybe you are using Qt Creator with C++ to design your GUI. There also we have buttons, right? Like if you go for a bit of advanced Java, there is Java Swing. Okay, there we have whole lot of GUI elements which you can use to create forms. So everywhere, wherever user interacts, something at the back end is listening. That is the listener. So in case you don't have any knowledge about Swing, it doesn't matter. The basic concept is same. You have a button. At the back end of the button, there is a code which is waiting for your click to happen. As soon as you click, that code gets executed. The code senses it that you have clicked on the button and it starts executing. Now, whatever may be the lines of code that are written in that is what listener is all about. Okay. Now, one thing I would like to stress, if you don't know core Java, then it becomes very difficult to learn Android. So wherever there are weaknesses from your part, there are few days left before we start off. Please go through those areas. Okay. So I'll repeat once again the topics in core Java, which will be of really useful to us for you if you learn Android properly. One is the concept of OOPS, how classes are defined, what are static variables, what are private variables, public variables, final keyword, right? Then how objects are defined, how we create instance methods, how we create static methods. Okay, then threading to certain extent, a bit of threads. Okay, multi-threading is a huge area, but a bit of threads. Then exception handling. Okay, so all these things have to be taken care of. And listeners and adapters, I'll show you while we do the code. Okay, so now I'll now come to what are the software requirements that we will be requiring to code Android. Okay, so before starting with Android, you have to set up your laptop or desktop so that you can work on Android programming. So depending upon which type of OS or operating system you are working on, okay, maybe you are using Windows operating system, maybe you are using Ubuntu, which has the Linux flavor, or maybe you are using Mac. For different OSs, we have different settings. Okay, so yes, Android, yes, Prince. We will be using the software which is called Android Studio. It's a very good IDE created by IntelliJ. Okay, it's a very good IDE with JetBrains basically. So we will be using Android Studio, and the most important thing that I have seen with giving training on Android in many cases is that the first bottleneck becomes RAM. If you have a 2 GB RAM machine, then I'll seriously suggest you please upgrade to at least 4 GB. At least 4 GB. That's the first thing. Okay? And if more, the more the better. I would say. Okay, if it's a 2 GB machine, then when we'll be deploying our app into something called emulator, okay, it will be the entire process will be taking up maybe 4 to 5 minutes at least. It becomes very slow. Okay, so the faster machine you have, the better it is. Mind it. So the first thing to learn and to before you start installing Android Studio, you have to install JDK. Okay, so the first thing in a machine you require JDK. Now, if you are using Windows and Mac, you can use normal JDK. If you are using Ubuntu, then you require OpenJDK, right? Now, once you are set up with this JDK, the next thing you will be requiring is SDK, a software development kit. And in case of Android, it is Android SDK, right? Now, you don't use Android SDK individually nowadays because earlier, maybe 4 or 5 years earlier, we used to code Android in Eclipse. There, we attached the Android SDK separately. But nowadays, Eclipse, nobody uses Eclipse for developing Android apps. Everyone uses the Android Studio, right? So Android Studio comes built in with the Android SDK. And there are different versions of SDK that it has got. You have to just download a specific version. And one more thing, while developing Android applications, even while you are doing this class or after this class, whenever you will be doing Android applications, I would suggest that your internet connectivity should be good. That's a very important area. Internet connectivity should be good because many times, okay, because many times what happens, some library files need to be downloaded. Then if there is not internet connectivity, maybe the application cannot be developed properly. So internet connectivity is required. And once you install Android Studio, you have to download the Android SDK. I'll show you today what are the areas that you should be prepared with. Sir, does we also require dedicated GPU? No. We are not into deep learning or neural network. We don't need dedicated GPU. Okay. Gradle and Maven, Rituraj Ranjan is saying, see, both are build tools. Maven is a good build tool, no doubt, but Gradle is far better than Maven. And Android Studio uses Gradle by default. So you don't need to know Maven at all. Okay. So Gradle will be used by Android Studio to build your apps. Is my voice breaking till right now? No, no. Okay, okay. So remember, you need at least 4 GB of RAM for being able to run your Android application or being able to develop your Android applications in a some sort of nice way, right? That's the most important thing. And now let me show you how to use Android Studio. What are the things that you need to download in and before this, any questions from your end? Tell me up till this point, whatever we have discussed. Any questions? Like whatever areas in core Java additionally you want to know or whatever. Tell me. Okay. Prince Special one is saying it's clear. Great. So those are the topics that I had discussed with you. Please note down those topics, go through them in the upcoming few days so that we are clear with it. Okay. Just a minute. I'll be just opening up the Android Studio. Okay. So if you install Android Studio and everything gets installed properly, okay, remember one thing, Android Studio file will be something around 500 MB, something like that. You download it from Google site, and then if everything runs properly, then you'll be getting the startup screen, something like that. Okay, you'll be getting the startup screen, something like that. Now I'll be showing you today how to create a very basic application in Android. Okay. So first of all, when you start off Android Studio, you get this screen. And over here, I'll be creating a new project. Okay. I just click on that. I'll be getting this project. Now, there are lots of different, pictures that you are seeing. Right now, we won't go into the details of everything. I'll just show you this one, empty activity. I just double click on that. I get to see this. Okay. Now, just a minute. So I'll be giving my application name, my first app. So wherever, maybe whatever path you want to save it to, you can save it. Now over here, I have choice of two languages, Java and Kotlin. Screen is not visible. Okay, just a minute. Is it
Sir,
visible? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
his got stuck.
Uh-huh. Is it okay now? Yeah, yes, correct. So there are two languages with which we can code Android. One is Java, one is Kotlin. We'll be using Java over here. So I select Java and minimum SDK, software development kit. Now there are a whole bunch of SDKs that you can choose. The highest is Android 11 or R, right? With an API 30. But the problem is, if I select the highest one, see, Google is going to tell you that less than 1% of the devices in the world will be able to load your app. You don't want so few devices to be able to load your app, right? You want your app to be being able to be communicate with a huge number of people in the world. So a good option would be you can go for this KitKat. So if I take KitKat, what happens? Yeah, 98.1% of devices in this world, Android devices in this world, will be able to load your app or install your app. Okay, that's a nice thing. So now let me take finish. Just a minute. Yeah, I hope you are getting this screen. Right. So, so here it is loading. See, See, Gradle is building. Depending upon how fast your machine is, depending upon internet connectivity, it will take some amount of time. Okay. Yeah. So the application code has been generated. So this is the basic code that has been generated. Okay. And next day I'll be discussing all these folder structures with you, not today, and how to run this application. There are two ways of running an Android application. Okay, this is a basic Hello World application. Okay, I won't discuss the code right now. I'll just run it today. How to run this application? There are two ways. One, either you connect your laptop or desktop with a USB cable to your Android phone. Remember, in your Android phone, your developer mode has to be on, right? Otherwise, Android Studio is not going to detect your Android phone. So either you run it on a physical device, or we can create emulators which will help us in loading the app. So I'll show you how to create an emulator in Android Studio. If I go over here, there is something called AVD Manager, right? So I click on this. I already have an emulator. Let me delete this emulator. Just a minute. Yeah. So this is the emulator that is there. Okay. So I'll be deleting this emulator. Nothing was there. The starting screen will come up like this when you click on Android Studio, right? So I'll create a virtual device. Just a minute. Okay. So I'll create a virtual device. Can you see this screen? Yeah. Now, I hope you can see this screen, right? So here we are able to create an emulator which will be emulating different types of devices. Okay. Now these are the sizes of devices, screen sizes, the diagonal screen sizes or whatever. Let me take the first one. No issue. First one. And click on next. Here it will ask you, since for the very first time you will be starting off Android Studio, SDKs won't be built into it, won't be downloaded along with it. SDKs are downloaded separately. Okay. So inside, beside this R, I'll also have this link for download also over here. Since I have already downloaded the latest API, API 30, so I'm not getting that download link over here. In your case, you will be getting the download link, and you click on that download link and download the SDK. And the file size, I'll tell you, note it down. The file size is something like 1.4, 1.2 to 1.4 GB. Okay, 1.2 to 1.4 GB, something like that. So you must be having a fast internet connectivity. That's very important, because if the connection breaks in between, nobody knows how Android Studio is going to behave the next time when you are running it. Okay, so that's an issue. So you have to be having a stable internet connectivity to download this SDK. Once the SDK is downloaded, you click on this next button. I get this screen. Now, when you start off your emulator, you can have in one of the two orientations, like portrait and landscape. Obviously, I'll be choosing my portrait. Later on, we can change over to landscape and vice versa, no issue. And over here, some additional settings are there that you can choose from. Depending on how much RAM is there in your machine, Android Studio is going to reserve some amount of RAM for running the emulator. Okay. So remember, in today's Android physical devices that you buy from the market, 4 GB, 6 GB, 8 GB RAM, that is what RAM it is trying to emulate, right? And some VM heap and some internal storage. You may not tinker with these things in case you don't have so much of RAM. Let Android Studio decide how much will it get. Okay, and this will be the number of CPU cores you have. Okay, so the number of CPU cores you have in a machine, that will be coming off the machine. And now I click on finish. So as I click on finish, this Android virtual device manager screen will come up, and the emulator that has been created will come up. Any query up till this point? Please tell me. Anyone, any query? The recording will be shared with you, and you can again repeatedly go through the recordings and get it solved. No, sir, no query. Fine. Now let me just stop Android Studio. I could have run it from here also. I could have started the Android Studio, I mean the emulator from here, and then I can click on my run app button at the back in Android Studio to get the app loaded. But let me just close this emulator. Right? Okay. So let me close this. I mean this. So let me just close this, and I'm into my Android Studio. Now I will click on this Run App button. As soon as I click on the Run App button, the build tool Gradle at the back end is running. It is creating the APK, isn't it? The APK file that it will create, and the emulator is starting up, and it will install the APK inside the emulator, and it will start off with my app. Just a minute. This takes a bit of time for the first time when you are running the emulator. Once the emulator is on, from the next time onwards, whenever you are running any app, it won't take so much of a time. Just like when you are starting off a new device, right? Or restarting, something like that. Just a minute, the device is coming online. Yes, everything is getting recorded, Indra. You will be getting the link. Don't worry. It's taking a bit of a time for the first time. Just yeah, yeah. Priyanshu is asking how to do with physical Android device. See, Priyanshu, in your settings, you will be going depending on what model of or which company device you are working with, you are using. In your settings, there will be something called a developer mode. Okay, so there is in the settings there will be something called build version. You click 7 times into that build version, and then your developer mode will be on. Okay, or you can just Google based on your device. And after that, once the developer mode is on, then you can connect with a USB cable to your computer, and Android Studio will be able to detect your device, physical device. So instead of using an emulator, when you hit the run button in Android Studio, it will directly load the APK into your physical device. That is the way it works. Okay. Yeah. So the first application that we have done today has come up. It's a simple Hello World application that comes up as a very bare bone in Android. Okay. I haven't written any code. Some few lines of code have been generated at the backend, and I've just run the app. So this is how the is it faster than emulator? Aniket is asking. Yes, definitely, 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 it's faster than emulator. Okay. And so this is how an Android application development takes place. Now, any queries from your end, please tell me. Any further queries? Whatever steps I have shown you, you'll be getting the video recording link. No issue will be there with that. Okay. And I'll repeat once again. Those of you have laptop or desktop with 2 GB or 3 GB RAM, I'll suggest that at least make it 4 GB. At least 4 GB. The more, the better. It will be faster. Okay. So that's the first point. And second thing is you install Android Studio in your machine and check out, create the sir, if emulator is installed. Yes, yes, yes. What will be the priority for Android Studio? Okay, Android Studio in that case, Raman is asking, Android Studio in that case will be giving you a pop-up. Okay, from where you select whether you want to load that APK into emulator or the device. Okay. So what I was talking about, uh, install Android Studio in your machines, get the first application running. If it doesn't run, okay, if it doesn't, it happens quite a lot of times I've seen. If it doesn't run, then if it's especially if it's a Windows machine, I'll tell you, if it's a Windows machine, many times it happens that there are some registry entries which are corrupted already. So Android Studio got loaded, but it is not starting, or it has started, but it is not being able to create that basic app and run it, right? So in that case, the best option would be, don't try tinkering with the Windows registry. Okay, the best option would be just reload the OS in your C drive. Okay, just format your C drive and reload the OS. And the very first software that you use should be Android Studio. Okay, many times maybe you are installing lots of other softwares, games, and other extra additional softwares. They really work. They have a very bad effect on sometimes on the registry entries. So Android Studio is a huge software, and everything in your machine should be perfectly fine. Otherwise, it won't load properly or it may not run properly. So test it out. Okay. If there is some problem, just reload or reformat the C drive and reload your operating system. And again, you install Android Studio. I'm sure it will work fine. Okay. So that is a very common hurdle that I see that students are facing. So get it done properly so that from the next class onwards, I'll be showing when I start showing different types of applications, right? You shouldn't be facing any problem. And again, while you install your while you create your virtual device, your emulator, it will ask for that SDK to be downloaded, and the SDK size will be something around 1.1 or 2 to 1.4 GB. In that case, please have a stable internet connectivity. Okay, so that's the important thing. And sometimes maybe, sir, which is better, physical or emulator? Obviously, physical device will be a bit faster to load you can load the APK a bit faster. But for testing purpose, emulator is quite okay. No issue. Okay, that is why it is given. For most of the cases, emulator is quite okay. Do we need to download SDK? No, no, no. Oh, okay. Yeah, Android SDK. Yeah, that is required. Otherwise, it won't be able to compile into an APK, right? Which SDK we have to do? Android Studio will do that for you. If you use a physical device, no, no, no. Then for physical device, no. It will directly go to that device. Okay, whatever downloads, it will be taken care of. You need to explicitly do this when you are creating the emulator for the first time. Which SDK? Ankit is asking. Android SDK. Okay, Android SDK that is separately being created by Google. Any more questions on this issue? Anyone? Any more questions? Okay. So from the next class onwards, we will be really going through all the different techniques that we'll be learning about Android. So in the meantime, I'll again repeat, please go through whatever weaknesses you have got regarding the core Java And again, I'll repeat, get Android Studio. Yeah, 4th June onwards, Ankit, Aditya, 4th June onwards, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Okay, there will be 5 days per week, Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Okay, 2 hours per day. So get Android Studio installed properly. That's the most important thing. Any more questions, anyone? Which language is better out of Kotlin and Java? Okay, see, both are good. Java is there in the market for a long, long time. Kotlin has come up few years back, and it is an official programming language of Google, no doubt. But still, most companies are for Android, right? Kotlin is new. It's not actually new, okay? Because Kotlin is already there in the market for around more than 4 years. Okay, but there are few companies which are transferring to Kotlin, but Java will be better in your case because you will be going for a job in the job market, right? And whenever they ask you for some writing some algorithms or whatever in your code testing part, Java will be preferable. Obviously, nobody will ask you write an algorithm in Kotlin. Nobody is going to ask you. C++, Python, or Java. So learning Java properly will be a great advantage for you. Nitin is asking, will get any issues by running on it? No, 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 Nitin. Your Android phone will not have any issue. And Abhijit is asking, is it necessary to install only Pixel XL? Uh, you can install any Pixel device, Google device in your emulator, no issue. Just remember, each emulator that you are creating, it will take up maybe around 10 to 12 GB of your disk space. Okay, 10 to 12 GB of your disk space. So the the lesser number of emulators you create, I think one or maximum two is quite sufficient. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. So can I conclude today's session?
Sir, just a
Yeah.
minute. Sir, the students are added in a WhatsApp group. So
Mhm.
I'll add you in that group.
Sure.
So before the next class, just whatever you have discussed in class, I mean, regarding the prerequisite and the download they need to do, just
Right.
also mention in that group, sir.
No, no problem. No problem.
Okay. Okay, guys. So, sir, shall I take it over?
Sure.
Okay. So, guys, I mean, after today's class, your next class would be starting from 4th of June. And that already, sir, mentioned it will be Monday to Friday, every day 2 hours, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You will get all the recording, so don't worry about that. Whatever problem you are facing or you will face, we are there to help you out. And in the group, there will be Shudipta sir, Shudipta Paitandi. He will be coordinating about your issues. So whatever issues you are facing, just post it in the group. Regarding the project, I mean, we'll divide you in group and you will be assigned project, as well as also you can suggest your own project if you have some idea, and that needs to be approved by the, I mean, mentor. All right, that means you're on in the sir. All right, guys. So any question? Any more question? Anything you want to ask before the next class regarding the classes, regarding the subject? You ask Anindra sir. No, okay, no, no, no. Okay. So just guys, if everything is clear, just give the thumbs up. Everyone. Before I conclude, just guys give the thumbs up. Okay, you have reaction, right? Yeah, okay. Okay. Great, 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 great. Okay. Fine. Thank you. Yeah, everyone, thank you. Thank you. So see you in next class. Any issue, just write us anytime, call us. You have our number. Okay, thank you. So see you in next class. Bye and take care. You can drop it now.